Okay. All right, blood type. So I'll put this online. All right, as you've seen, the outcome of it is the different types of carbohydrates on the blood cells, but the actual code, the protein that's coded for is an enzyme that then makes those carbs. Just to note that it's a protein coded for, but then the carbohydrates are the product. Genes don't actually code for carbohydrates. So we've got those three alleles, and it is important to write them like that, really, the IA, IB, little I for our purposes. So, and a heterozygous person, which allele is dominant, IA or little I? They tell you here what kind of blood types the people have. So what would you say?
IA.
Okay, and explain your reasoning.
The reason is because it has carbohydrates in the blood cells.
Okay. This is what I say, that kind of thing. The red blood cells have the A-type carbohydrates, and the blood type acts like what an A blood type would act like. So both the IA and IA little I all act like the A-type blood. So, yep, they have the red blood cells on them that are, they have the carbohydrates that are A's. Good. So now here we got the codominance. Which one of the genotypes results in a phenotype that is clear evidence of codominance? So which one do you see both at the same time? IB. And what kind of blood is that?
Blood type A.
Blood type AB. So you have both, and they tell you here both A carbohydrates and B carbohydrates. You can see that in the picture. Their little representation, right? You got the little triangles and you got the half circles. Both at the same time. Good. So each parent gives, so number 3, each parent gives one of their two blood type alleles. So for example, a father who is blood type AB has what genotype?
IA.
This is the phenotype. Genotype. IAIB. Why we're using these I's? We're using the I's because I is the gene, and there's different versions of a gene. There's the IA version, the IB version, and then the little I version. Okay? So he will produce sperm with either an IA or an IB allele. He can give either of those to his child. If the mother has blood type O, what type of alleles does she have? She has 2. So in order to have no carbohydrates on the red blood cell, she has 2 little i's. So all she can give to her offspring is, but she should only give one of those 2. Otherwise, she'll make an offspring with too many copies of the chromosome. So she can only give a little I allele, so just a little I. This one could give an IA or an IB. So really, I disagree with how they did this Punnett square. I should cross it out. I wouldn't do the double I. Do you see how the little I is just a repeat? It's like exactly the same thing. You're just wasting your time because you will have limited time. So all you need to do for this is writing the Punnett square, write the blood type for each genotype. So where we could do the genotypic ratio or phenotypic ratio. How about we do that? Phenotypic ratio for the babies. So what you have is you have 2 sperm types from the dad. You only have 1 egg type from the mom, so that only gives you 2 combinations. So what's the ratio of phenotypes here? What's this?
1
So that would be a genotype. So you're right about the genotypes.
Type A,
One type A, 1 type B. And I could very well ask you, what are the genotypic ratios? And then you go 1 IA little I, 1 IB little I. So those are the 2 options. You have A babies and B babies. Unless there's, like I always said, there's exceptions to the rule when something kind of weird is going on or unusual, and that does happen. So don't. Yeah, I'll just mostly do say, what is the expected outcomes or most likely. All right. So now we've got the same couple that they talked about the blood type. Now we've got Michelle and Michael Jr. are fraternal. Oh no, this is different. Oh, these are the babies. Michelle and Michael Jr. are fraternal twins, the result of two separate eggs, each fertilized by different sperm. They inherited different alleles for the genes of skin color because the egg and the sperm carry different alleles for the genes of skin color than the eggs and sperm form the other baby. Okay, we got different alleles. So this is an example. They're giving this here. This is really not how skin color works. It's a lot more complicated. But they're giving us here this easy example, right, of dark brown, light brown, tan. So we have this in-between phenotype. So you can see the dark brown, the light brown, the tan. So this is that incomplete dominance or partial dominance, okay? So that's the type of inheritance this is. So C is the color gene. So when I had something like this, if they didn't write it out for you, I'd probably write out all three genotypes so I didn't get confused and forget that there was a middle genotype. Dark brown, light brown, tan. Explain how incomplete dominance differs from dominant recessive pairs of alleles. You're just looking at the heterozygote. Is it in between phenotype? Not. In a complete dominant scenario, what color would the heterozygote be?
BT.
Yes, so the genotype is BT still, true. What about the phenotype? If it was not incomplete, if it was just complete dominance, what phenotype would the heterozygote have? Same as which?
Dark brown.
Probably the dark brown, although I don't specify which is dominant recessive because there is no dominant recessive, but presumably, not necessarily. Because actually, remember let's go with this. Let's say that in a complete dominant scenario, dark brown is dominant, then yes, it would be like the dominant. But in this case, they're in complete dominance. Okay. So, Michael and Danielle, the parents, both have light brown skin. What's their genetic makeup? So we've already written this out, so that should be easy, right? So here's Michael. What does he have?
CT.
Okay, he has a CT.
Wait. BT.
So he has to have a B2 to be that in-between phenotype. And then Danielle, they say she has the same thing, so she's also that light brown skin. And then what kind of, so they have two babies, they have different color skin, and they're twins. They come out and they're like, how does this happen? They don't look alike. Well, there's different combinations that could occur, right? So for each of these parents, you see that they have two options, right? So that means that we need two options on both Punnett squares. So we need a CB for dad, or his sperm could have a CT, a CB, and a CT. So this is one of those monohybrid crosses, but a little different because of this incomplete dominance, the same kind of cross. So where you get the 1 to 2 to 1. One to 2 to 1. But now we want to know which are Michael Jr. and Michelle. Okay, I think they tell us that on this first page here. Yes. Michael Jr. is light-skinned, and let's say that is tan, and Michelle is the dark brown. Okay? So which of these boxes is Michael Jr.?
10.
Mm-hmm. And which of that is what's the genotype for that then?
CT.
So that must be Michael Jr. And Michelle, the dark. These are all, I know, very basic, but I'm telling you, I looked at the exams and they're all over the place. So, what's the probability their next baby will look like Michelle? So we're wondering what's the probability of a CBCB? What do you think?
1 more.
Just this box, yep. What's the probability that they will have a light brown baby? 2/4, which reduces to 1/2. Okay, so then you go to something like, then it talks about here, polygenic inheritance, multiple alleles, multifactorial, so you just need to know those definitions. So basically, most phenotypes are due to multiple genes, that's polygenic, and usually genes aren't just in 2 types. Usually it's not just big P, little p. It'd be like big P, little p, P prime, P star, so it'll be like 4 different versions of the genes, and they all have slightly different outcomes. And multifactorial also, it means that there's environmental influences too, like your skin color also depends on how much sun exposure there is. Like height too, so like your height is determined partially genetically, but partially how much food you get when you're developing as a kid. So that's the multifactorial environmental influence example. Oh, goodness gracious. Let's, this is not good drawing of these pedigrees. Here's what you need to have. So fix that. This should be connected. Shouldn't be this funky, like, goalposty thing. Okay, so it should be straight across between the parents. Just so you don't have that all funky messed up. All right, so then they show us the blood types here. We've already done the blood types of the Michael and Danielle, Michelle and Michael, all that stuff. So this is another family, Tanya, the one they thought was mixed up with their kid because she also looked like Michael Jr. So the question is, Michael is AB, Danielle is O, Michelle is A, Michael Jr. is B. So, is it possible for Michael and Danielle to have a child with O-type blood? Could they have an O? So, what I would do is first figure out what do you need to make an O baby. Okay, and then I figure out what they have. So, what does the O have? What does the AB have?
A.
So can they make a baby with 2 little eyes, most likely? Probably not. This one could donate, but where are you getting the second one from? This parent doesn't have that, the dad doesn't have it. Like I said, there are unusual situations where you have like an extra copy of the allele, and you might end up having IA, IB, little I. Sometimes that happens, but generally, this would not be parents that would produce an O baby. What about Ernest and Denise? Could they have an O baby?
Yeah. You need 2 little eyes.
2 little eyes, and each parent could be heterozygous. So then the question is, was the switch made at the hospital? No. She said, we have to do blood types. So the no, it's not made because Tanya is a little I, O blood. Michael and Michael and Danielle couldn't produce that baby, so they have the babies correct, even though Tanya looks more like Michael Jr. than Michelle does. Interesting question. How do you know that Michelle and Michael Jr. are not identical twins? You can for sure know this. Why do you for sure know Michelle and Michael Jr. are not identical or monozygotic twins?
Because of the skin color and their blood type?
So blood type and skin color are different. What if you didn't even know any of that? You never even seen the babies. Someone calls you up and is like, oh my God, we had twins. Michael Jr., we named him Michael Jr. and Michelle. Automatically you'd know. There have to be fraternal.
Egg, or no, a difference from the sperm. I don't know.
What do you, I think you're thinking,
Junior?
because what?
Because of the junior part?
Well, Junior does tell us he's named after his dad. But that's a good point, Dad. So how are Michelle and Michael Jr. different?
Because when they split the eggs, it would have to be, if If they were the same from.
Keep going.
If they were the same from the sperm, they would be identical in sex to the egg split.
So if it's a boy and a girl, you always know that unless something real crazy happened, you always know that it's going to be fraternal, or where it's dizygotic, meaning two fertilizations, exactly because a boy and a girl are not identical automatically because they have an X and a Y. So if you have this, and during early development it splits in half and each one goes on to become its own person, could be identical. That would be an identical twin situation. That they'd have to both be girls, or they'd have to both be boys. If you have, in the end, if you have a girl baby and you have a boy baby, you do indeed know that the girl baby came from this, and the boy baby came from that. So this is like you're saying, Zach, the X sperm versus the Y sperm. So definitely fraternal. Or we call it dizygotic, meaning two zygotes, like comes from two different fertilizations. Monozygotic means coming from one fertilization. This would be two boys. Yep. Good. So even if you didn't know anything, I have a friend who's, I have a number of friends that are twins, but one that's a boy and a girl, and she cracks up when people ask her, oh, are you identical? She's like, all right, think about this for 1 second. Are we identical? I'm Julia, this is Jeremy. So, like, no. Okay. Okay, let's see what the president says about this.